So, you guys have the perspective of doing detour groups first, and so you've kind of discussed some of these things and have, I'm sure, some consideration of some stuff that's going to help you or cause you to wrestle through some of the things that we're going to go through. And I want to tell you that in this series, I guarantee there are going to be points of time and things that are said that will bother you. I'm just telling you up front, there's going to be stuff that I'm going to take from God's word. It's not, Jeff's opportunity to give you his opinion, but things from God's word that because of the way that culture has blurred the lines, because of the way that culture has said, no, ignore that, society should tell you what to believe. That there are going to be things that we're going to talk about and that we're going to go through that are going to feel very like, wait, what? Is that okay to believe? Is that, how do I live with that? And the thing that we're starting with tonight, which is going to be key to all of the other stuff that we talk about in the future, is what do you believe truth to be? Because depending on what you believe truth to be is going to shape what you call truth. It's going to dictate what you accept as truth. And these are all things that have shaped our culture, not just our culture, but the culture of centuries. Because the conversations and things that we're having now are not new. They're just not. We think that we've come up with, new ways of thinking and, no one's considered it this way or not. You're going to see in the Bible that people were already thinking this way, way back then. So this isn't a thing of us discovering new thought. It's the choice that each of us is going to have is, what are you going to accept as truth? Is it going to be based on what you think or what culture thinks? Or is it going to be based on something that we are going to look at and see should come from God's word to us? So the first thing that I want to establish right here, well, look at this. I didn't reset all of this. Oh, look, look, we're going back. Don't look at any of the things. Don't. Okay, here we go. Starting over. So, first thing we are going to establish is something called a fixed point of reference. Chair. Fixed point of reference. Imagine yourself in a featureless room. Okay, the lights are off, round walls, there's nothing in the room, and you're walking around and you discover, it's a chair, all right? Now, from here, I can begin to navigate around the room. I can, what? And I know where I am. I'm in the chair, right? And I begin to venture out, right? As long as I have a fixed point of reference, I can 1, 2, 3. Oh, chair, right? And so as long as we have a fixed point of reference, we can know certain things. Okay, we can understand certain things. But there are a couple rules to a fixed point of reference. One, it can't move. All right? The fixed point of reference can't be something where sometimes it's there, sometimes it's there, sometimes it gets moved up here. There's no way to find where you're at if the fixed point of reference moves. Second rule to a fixed point of reference, it has to be separate from you. This is where we run into some trouble and the lines get blurred because we want to go, all right, and wander around and be like, there, I want it to be there. All right, now I'm going to head out. Oh no. What? And there's no point of reference anymore. So a fixed point of reference cannot move and it has to be separate from you. As soon as it becomes part of you, as soon as it becomes part of your consciousness, it's no longer a fixed point of reference. As soon as it becomes a matter of your opinion on where it should be, it's no longer a fixed point of reference and you're lost. This is important. So the things that we're going to talk about through tonight, I want you to keep in mind this fixed point of reference. And I want you to consider, what's your fixed point of reference? Do you have a fixed point of reference? And that fixed point of reference is going to be truth. Okay? What is your truth? Paul goes to Greece, and he goes to a place called Mars Hill. Mars Hill was the place where in like 300 BC, where Plato hung out and Aristotle hung out. This was the place where, thank you, this was the place where all the thinkers were. And they would sit around and they would ponder things of the universe. And they would ponder, what is the purpose of humanity? And you're going to hear all these things. When you go to college, you're going to take philosophy. You know who you're going to learn about in philosophy? Plato and Aristotle. Now, Plato said, look, all we have to do is look in the right place and we can find truth. So we'll just kind of keep exploring. And one day, we'll kind of just be able to stumble upon where they hide truth. Aristotle said, well, no, wait, hold on. We're going to be able to find truth if we take a little bit of truth from here, a little piece of this over here, a little piece of this over here, and we mush it all together. We're going to be able to develop truth. And society has taken that, we're like, ooh, we like that because then I can mold and shape truth to be anything I want it to be. I can mold and shape truth to be comfortable. I can mold and shape truth to be my opinion. I can mold and shape truth to be whatever I want it to be. And this was the society that Paul was addressing. Sounds a lot like our society, yeah? Where we are supposed to just, accept and think, allow people to have their own realities and whatever. Paul gets to Mars Hill, and he shows up at Mars Hill, and he says this. In Acts 17:22, he says this, men of Athens, I notice that you are very religious in every way. Here, get this. People are sincere in their searching of truth. We should not look around at people and who don't have a faith in the Christian God, the true God, and be like, oh man, they're so stupid. They are sincere in their search for truth. Paul is looking at these men and going, look, I see that you are devout. You are sincere in your and religious in every way. For as I was walking along, I saw your many shrines, and one of your altars had this inscription on it, to the unknown God. This God, whom you worship without knowing, is the one I'm going to tell you about. These people were looking for anything to worship. They wanted to get it right. They wanted to find truth. They wanted to find hope and peace and joy and love. Don't we all? That's basic. They wanted that, but they were looking in all the wrong places. They were looking in all the man-made places. But just in case none of their altars, their shrines, their statues to gods were the right one, well, why don't we go ahead and just build one to the unknown God? The one that we aren't worshiping, the one that we don't know about. And Paul says, this is the one. The one that inside of you, you know you've missed it. You know that all of these other gods and these statues and these shrines haven't brought you life. You've seen that. You've experienced that. Here's why. I'm going to tell you about the true God. And he says this. Sorry. He points out that they don't have a fixed point of reference. Everyone is walking around with their chair going, maybe it's the God of fertility. Maybe we should worship the God of the sun. Maybe we should worship the God of the harvest. And everyone's walking around just trying to, and he goes, you don't have a fixed point of reference. The God I'm about to tell you about is a fixed point of reference. It doesn't move. It doesn't change. It doesn't get altered just by the whim or the society or what you guys think it should be. And he's in this place where they're talking and they're philosophizing, yeah. Which philosophizing, yeah. So, where they're coming up with all these things and yet never coming up with any truth. And Paul goes, it's because you don't have a fixed point of reference. This God is the fixed point of reference. And here's what he does as he walks them through this. He answers, why does God get to be the fixed point of reference? Maybe you've asked this. Why is the Christian God the right God? Why does God get to be the God, the fixed point of reference? And this is what Paul walks them through. He says, first off, that God is the origin of all things. He's the creator of all of it. It's all from him. He is the God who made the world and everything in it. He shaped it. He formed it. And there's an interesting dynamic that we see here where Paul goes, look, God made everything. He's the creator. He's the origin, which means whatever he creates is going to be like him and because of him. And humans are really unique. Humans are really distinct in the sense that humans are self-aware. Everybody in this room, you care about your future, right? You wonder, like, what is my purpose? What's your purpose right now as a 14-year-old? What's going to be your purpose when you graduate high school? What's going to be your purpose as a mother or a father? What is the purpose? What's the purpose of your life? That's unique to humans. Do you get that? Okay, chickens are not self-aware. Chickens are not wandering around the coop going, bark, bark, what's the purpose bark, of being a chicken? Bark, bark. They're not doing that. They're not wondering what their purpose, what their goal, and what they were created to be. They're just chickens. Humans were created to be self-aware. Now, listen. He's the creator and the origin of all things. This is why God gets to be the fixed point of reference. If God was just this impersonal cosmic force, he would not have been able to make self-aware beings. It wouldn't have worked. God could not have created self-aware beings. And so God, it's the demonstration that God is the creator. He's the origin of all things. And he made us this way, that we're self-aware, that we care, and it's inside each one of us. It's interesting that atheists who don't believe in God would still call themselves a person, right? They would still acknowledge that they have this self-awareness. Where did that self-awareness come from? It's not a physical thing that scientists can be like, oh, well, when there was the Big Bang, this part of the bang created self-awareness, but only in human. It's not a scientific thing. It's a personal thing. God, the origin, the creator of all things, made us self-aware, which means he's aware. He is this personal God who created all things. Second reason why God is the fixed point of reference. He is the Lord of all things. He is the God who made the world and everything in it. Since he is Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temples. Our culture hates this. This is part of what causes people to struggle with believing in God. We want to be the ultimate authority. We want to be the Lord of all things. We want to be able to decide what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. We want to be the ones who do that. And when we do that, we lose our fixed point of reference because we make it about us. Remember, a fixed point of reference has to be separate from us. But we want to carry it around with us, and we want to make it part of our own reality. We don't want to have guidelines. We don't want to have boundaries, and we fight against those. And if you look all around our culture, isn't our culture telling you no boundaries? Do what you feel. Follow your heart. If it feels good, do it. If you can get away with it, go for it. As long as it doesn't hurt somebody, who cares? But we are faced with a fixed point of reference means there is an ultimate authority. It means that there is a standard for life. And internally, people know this. People know there's an ultimate authority. Even if they don't want to acknowledge God, they believe there's an ultimate authority. Here's how we know this. People want to do good. They want to do good things for people. They don't, for the most part, most of the time, they don't want to hurt people. They want to do good things for people. If there's no ultimate authority, then doing good for people would be no different than not doing good for people. There would be no, so this idea of a person who doesn't believe in God, well, they still do good things for people because innately, internally, they know that there is a purpose. They know that there is a reality that they're rejecting, that they're saying, no, I don't believe in an ultimate authority, but then why do good? It's the same as not doing good. If there really is no ultimate authority. But Paul is going, look, he is the Lord of all things. This is why we're called to live according to how God calls us to live. He is the ultimate authority. We also need to understand that for God to be the fixed point of reference, that he has to be self-existent and self-defining. If he wasn't self-existent and self-defining, he could not be a fixed point of reference. It says this, he's the God who made the world and everything in it. Since he is the Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temples, and human hands can't serve his needs, for he has no needs. He himself gives life and breath to everything, and he satisfies every need. We love, like, statues. And in the old days, they had statues and they had shrines and things like that. In other parts of the world, they still have those and people worship them. We love the idea of being able to worship something that we make, that we define, that we say this is what it is. We set up our own heroes. We set up our own celebrities. We set up all these things that we want to say they are worthy of worship. Here, Paul is going, in order to be a fixed point of reference, it can't be defined. It can't be up to you to define it. It can't be up to us to say, oh, well, this is God, this is not, this is good, this is not, this is bad, this is not. It can't be up to us. God is self-existent and self-defining. If you were to ask, what's your definition of God? If you were to ask me, what's your definition of God? I would go, it's not up to me to define God. God doesn't need me to tell God what he is and what he's like. And yet we want to do that. What is God? God does not need me. God is not a matter of opinion. He is the I am, not the I am whatever you want me to be. He's self-defining. He's self-existent. He doesn't need us to help him be God. All of these other people that Paul's talking to, all the statues and the shrines, they're trying to help these gods be God. Paul is saying he's a fixed point of reference. He doesn't need you to make him God. He's self-existent and he's self-defining. Otherwise, he could not be a fixed point of reference. God is a fixed point of reference because he created you with a purpose. From one man, he created all the nations throughout the whole earth. He decided beforehand when they should rise and fall, and he determined their boundaries. He created you. He thoughtfully made you. Fixed point of reference. The foundation of you. You did not come, well, let me explain it this way, because I know all of you have experienced this. Welcome to Biology 101. First thing, Biology 101, first thing you need to understand, you are an accident. You are the result of just this conglomeration of dust and gas, and at some point it was floating around and it banged into each other and looked at each other and went, hey, let's be something organic. And it became something organic, and it floated around and attached to some other organic things, and then it became kind of this cosmic goo, this ooze that was out there, and it sort of just landed, and then at some point that ooze solidified a little bit and started swimming around the water, and then it was tired. You were tired of swimming around the water, so you grew some legs, you climbed up on the land and started walking around. Eventually, walking around on all fours wasn't that great, and so you decided to stand up on your feet, grew a bunch of hair, wandered around, at some point decided to shave, and we're left with you today. Like, from goo to you, by way of the zoo, right? It's just this thing that just happened. You are an accident. Now, because you're an accident, you have no real meaning, no real purpose. No one and the earth is not going to miss you when you're gone. So kind of just do your best. Hope some bad stuff doesn't happen to you until you die, and they're going to put you in the ground. That's it. You're an accident. The bell rings, and now, because we're a culture of snowflakes, walk down the hall to the new class on self-esteem, right? And we wander around and want to get patted on the back and told that we're really okay. When the reality of it is the world blurs the lines and tells you, you're an accident. From one man, God created the nations through the whole earth. And he appointed you to be here right now. You may not agree with it. You may wish it was different. But he appointed you to be here right now. He created you with a purpose. He gave you your character, your personality, your skills, your looks. He did it all on purpose. You are not an accident. And that creator is your fixed point of reference. We can always come back to that and know that that is true. Know that we came from a creator who made us lovingly with a purpose. You are not an accident. You're not just by chance. And we need to understand that the foundation of Christian self-esteem is not how good looking you are, how talented you are, how strong you are, how smart you are, what kind of grades you get. The foundation of Christian self-esteem comes from knowing that you were lovingly and purposefully created. Fixed point of reference. No one can take that from you. It's who God is and what he's done. If we weren't created with a purpose, if you are just an accident, if you're just a random combustion of stuff, then I suppose abortion is fine. It doesn't matter. Socialism will tell you we're all kind of just these cogs in a machine, and they work and they do their function and do their thing. And if something breaks, if it's too expensive to fix, you just kind of get rid of it. And sometimes you just cancel the order for the part before it arrives. What does it matter? But you were created with a purpose and with a plan of God. He's our fixed point of reference. God's our fixed point of reference because he desires intimate relationship with you. His purpose for the nations was to seek after God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him, though he's really not far from any one of us. These guys are looking at the cosmos, and they're trying to find truth, and they're trying to find hope, and they're trying to find reason. And these philosophers, like one big Dr. Phil show, and they're just like trying to discover. He's going, you're missing this. You have this statue to the unknown God. The unknown God is the one who wants relationship with you, and he designed you and set up an opportunity for you to draw close to him, for you to know him personally. This is who God is. He didn't just set the world spinning, turn on his voicemail, be like, yeah, maybe I'll get back to you. And he says, I'm here. I'm interacting with you. He's a personable God. He's personal. He wants to invite you into relationship with him because he is the origin of all things. He's the creator of all things. He is the Lord over all things. He is the fixed point of reference. We can always come back to that. It'll never change. This is who God is. But what we face today is something that happened way back in the garden with Adam and Eve. Satan put wheels on the chair. A wheelchair. Satan put wheels on the chair. This is what happened when Satan put wheels on the chair. He said, you can call your own shots. You can be your own person. You can find your own reality. You can find your own truth. You can be your own truth. Whatever you think needs to happen, that can happen. And wherever you go, don't you let anybody tell you what you can do, what you can't do, what you should think, what you shouldn't think. Just go for it. Whatever you want to do. Isn't that nice? But what happened when that happened is we lost our fixed point of reference. And our society has forever has been a society of a bunch of people rolling around on these chairs with wheels on them, bumping into each other, saying, don't you tell me what to believe, don't you tell me what to feel, nobody's an authority of me, I have my own reality. And one thing after another has created these issues where the lines get blurred and we are potentially left, if we don't search and find the fixed point of reference, we're left going, you know what, I don't know what to believe. Fine, okay, have your own reality, I guess. I guess that's fine. I guess it's okay to believe whatever you want to believe. I guess it's okay for you to do whatever your heart tells you to do. I guess it's okay for you to think whatever you want to think because I don't know. We just roll around and we've lost the fixed point of reference. Not because he's moved, but because we've hopped on these chairs with wheels on them because it feels better. It allows us to be whoever we want to be and do whatever we want to do. But in the end, it leaves us empty. But a couple things happen when you put wheels on the chair. One is you drift from truth into confusion. With a fixed point of reference, you know where you are. It's like, here I am, and I know what truth is. When you put wheels on the chair, you drift from that truth into confusion of going, well, I thought I knew. Where did it go? Let me give you an example of what this looks like. Wheels on the chair, drift from truth into confusion. This happens in hospitals all over the world right now as we speak. In one area of the hospital, you have a team of doctors performing a late-term abortion. This is a baby where, if born, it would absolutely survive. This is a healthy baby. It is a fully formed baby. It could be delivered and absolutely survive. But through the decision of, hey, you get to do whatever you want to do. Hey, it's not anybody's right to tell you what's wrong, and nobody should be able to tell you what to think. And so you get the right. You have the right to do whatever you want. And so in this hospital, there's a team of doctors performing a late-term abortion. In that same hospital, in the other wing, there is a team of doctors on standby, ready to save the life of that same baby if the first team of doctors fails at what they were trying to do. Is that confusing? No. We drift from truth into confusion, where we start saying things are okay. We start saying that, hey, we should go ahead and do this and do this. We drift from truth into confusion. The second thing that happens when you put wheels on the chair is it creates points of tension where people start saying things like this. It's wrong for you to impose your morals on me. What did I just do? I just imposed my morals and my opinion on you. Okay, you say things like, you can't say that truth is absolute. That's wrong. Is it absolutely wrong? Right? It creates points of tension where we start arguing things in our own hearts, in our own minds, of going, what do I believe? What should I do? And the lines get blurred. And if we don't come back to that fixed point of reference, we just wander around in confusion in these chairs with these wheels. And we can never we can never find our way back to where we need to be. God is a fixed point of reference. And the reality of it is, and I believe that every human on the planet knows this inside, whether they'll admit it or not. Okay, some won't. There has to be a truth that is fixed and objective. There has to be. There has to be an ultimate authority. There has to be an origin to all things. There has to be a creator. There has to be one that we can look to, that we can know. Fixed. It will always be there. We can always use this as a guide. And when we stray from this, that we would always know, you know what? This is where I need to be. There has to be a truth that is fixed and objective. Whether you feel it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you want it or not, there has to be. There has to be a fixed, objective truth. And that's what people all over the place are searching for. So my question for you tonight is, what is your point of reference? Is it a chair with the wheels on it? Or is it fixed? When the Nazis were taking over areas of Europe, they would go into a town and they would do whatever they needed to do to conquer it, and they would organize the people and they'd bring the people together, and the people would be like, okay, we surrender, we'll live under your rule. And they would send these people to classes. And in these classes, they didn't teach them Marxism or socialism or communism. You know what they taught them in these classes? Evolution. They taught them evolution because if they could convince people that there is no higher authority, if they could convince people that there was no purpose to live for and to move toward, well, then they get to dictate it. They get to determine what is right and wrong. They get to determine what reality is. So in these situations, their goal, they knew that at the heart of everything would be to take away the fixed point of reference. Blur the lines, make anything that they say be reality, be true, and from there, they would get to dictate what people said, what people thought, what people did. You guys, we're living in a culture that has blurred the lines on so many things that God, the fixed point of reference, is clear on. The way we love people, the way we walk with people, the way we live as a light in a dark place. But we are just as susceptible to putting wheels on the chair and going, oh, well, believing that doesn't feel very good, so I'll just kind of move over here for now. And now I'll move it over here, and now I'll move it back over here. Oh no. Blurred lines. And eventually, we end up in a place of not only do we not know what to believe, we figure that everybody else, whatever you want to believe, whatever you want to call right, whatever you want to say is acceptable, or, okay, I guess I don't know what truth is. What is your truth? Are there wheels on the chair? Or is it a fixed point of reference that says there is a God, the origin of life, the Lord over all things, who doesn't need you to define him. He doesn't need you to make him God. He doesn't need you to decide for him what should happen and what shouldn't happen. He doesn't need you to counsel him on how to get contemporary and get with the times and get with the culture, but that he is a fixed point of reference that we can always come to. That this would be what we journey out from and are always willing to come back and say, you are my truth. And everything else we're going to talk about through this series is going to hinge on that answer. And if your chair has wheels on it, the stuff we're going to talk about is going to bother you. It's not going to be like, oh, cool, because the wheels want to take you somewhere else. Fixed point of reference. God is there. He has truth. It can be found. And we don't have to, even though our culture says, oh, the unknown God, he can be known. He created you and he wants to know you. So God, I pray that you would speak this truth to our hearts. God, help us get it. Help us come to a place where we are willing to abandon the wheels and we're willing and ready to come to you, our fixed point of reference. That we would trust you, that we would be willing to surrender to you, and that our hope for our lives and our purpose would come solely from you. So show us what you want to do in this. Show us truth. That as we walk with this, we would speak truth to our world. We would be an example of truth to our world. And we would not get taken over and allow wheels to be put on our truth. Help us to surrender to you and to know what that means, God. In Jesus' name, amen.